Once upon a time, in a land filled with sunshine and green meadows, lived a kind man and woman who were expecting a baby. They were so happy and couldn't wait to become parents. Their little cottage stood next to a magnificent garden, which was surrounded by a high wall. This garden belonged to a powerful enchantress named Dame Gothel. It was filled with the most beautiful flowers and the most delicious-looking fruits and vegetables you could ever imagine. One day, the woman was looking out her window into the garden and saw a patch of the most wonderful Rapunzel, a type of lettuce. She suddenly had an overwhelming craving for it. Day after day, she longed for it so much that she began to grow pale and weak. Her husband, who loved her dearly, grew worried. "What's wrong, my love?" he asked. She confessed her deep desire for the Rapunzel, saying she felt she would waste away if she couldn't have some. The husband, wanting to do anything to make his wife feel better, decided he had to get some of that Rapunzel for her. That evening, under the soft glow of the moon, he bravely climbed over the high wall into the enchantress's garden. He quickly gathered a handful of the fresh greens and rushed back to his wife. She made a salad with it right away and ate it with great delight. It was so tasty that the next day her craving was even stronger. So her loving husband knew he had to go back. As he was climbing over the wall again, he suddenly froze. There, standing before him with eyes flashing, was Dame Gothel herself. "How dare you sneak into my garden and steal my Rapunzel like a thief?" she shrieked. The man trembled with fear. "Please, have mercy," he begged. "My wife is expecting a child, and she had such a strong craving for your Rapunzel that I feared she would become ill without it." Dame Gothel's expression softened just a little, but her voice was cold as ice. "I will let you take all the Rapunzel you want," she said. "But on one condition, you must give me the child when it is born. I will care for it as if it were my own." The man was so terrified that he agreed without thinking, and so, when his wife gave birth to a beautiful baby girl with hair like spun gold, Dame Gothel appeared. She named the baby Rapunzel after the plant her mother had craved and whisked her away. Dame Gothel raised Rapunzel, and the little girl grew up to be the most beautiful child under the sun. When Rapunzel turned 12, the enchantress, afraid someone might take her away, led her deep into a forest. There, in a clearing, stood a tall tower with no doors and no stairs, just a single room at the very top with one window. When Dame Gothel wanted to visit, she would stand at the bottom and call out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair so that I may climb the golden stair." Rapunzel had magnificent long hair, as fine as spun gold. When she heard Dame Gothel's voice, she would unpin her braided hair, wrap it around a hook by the window, and let it cascade all the way down to the ground. Her hair was so strong that the enchantress could climb up it like a rope. For years, this was Rapunzel's life. She spent her days alone in the tower room, singing to the birds with her beautiful voice to pass the time. She was lonely, but she didn't know any other life. One day, a prince was riding through the forest when he heard the most enchanting singing. He was so captivated by the sound that he followed it until he reached the tower. He rode around it again and again, but he could find no door. He was puzzled but couldn't forget the lovely voice. He returned to the forest every day, hoping to hear it again. One afternoon, as he was hiding behind a tree, he saw Dame Gothel approach the tower and heard her call out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." He watched in amazement as a long golden braid tumbled down from the window and the old woman climbed up. "So that's the way in," he thought to himself. He now knew how to reach the mysterious singer. The very next evening, as dusk began to fall, the prince went to the tower and mimicked the enchantress's voice. He called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." The braid of golden hair fell down, and he quickly climbed up. When Rapunzel saw a man for the first time, she was frightened. But the prince spoke to her kindly, with a gentle smile. He told her how her singing had touched his heart and how he could unrest until he had met her. Rapunzel's fear slowly faded, replaced by curiosity and warmth. The prince's words were kind, and his eyes were full of admiration. She found herself enjoying his company. He asked her if she would marry him and be his princess. Rapunzel, seeing how sincere he was and dreaming of a life outside the lonely tower, said, "Yes, I would gladly go with you," she said, "but I don't know how to get down. Every time you visit, bring a skein of silk, and I will weave a ladder. When it's finished, I will climb down, and we can escape together." They agreed that he would visit her every evening, since the enchantress only came during the day. For a while, their plan went perfectly. Dame Gothel suspected nothing. But one day, Rapunzel, without thinking, said to her, "Tell me, Dame Gothel, why is it that you are so much heavier to pull up than the young prince? He is with me in a moment." The enchantress gasped in fury. "You wicked child," she screamed. "I thought I had hidden you from the whole world, but you have deceived me." In her rage, she grabbed a pair of scissors and snip, snap. She cut off Rapunzel's beautiful long hair. The golden braids fell to the floor. Then she used her magic to transport the poor, weeping Rapunzel to a desolate wasteland to live in great sorrow and misery. That same evening, Dame Gothel took the severed braids and tied them to the window hook. When the prince arrived and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," she lowered the cut hair. The prince climbed up, full of hope, only to find not his beloved Rapunzel, but the furious enchantress. "Aha," she cackled. "You came for your dearest, but the pretty bird is no longer in her nest and sings no more. The cat has got her, and it will scratch out your eyes too. You will never see Rapunzel again." The prince was overcome with despair. In his grief, he leaped from the tower. He survived the fall, but he landed in thorns, which blinded him. For years the prince wandered the land, blind and heartbroken, eating nothing but roots and berries. He did nothing but mourn for his lost love. One day, his wandering led him to the very same wasteland where Rapunzel was living. He heard a familiar, sorrowful voice singing. He followed the sound, and as he got closer, he called out her name, Rapunzel. Rapunzel heard his voice and recognized him at once. She ran to him, and they fell into each other's arms. As she wept with joy, 2 of her tears fell upon his eyes. In that instant, a miracle happened. His sight was restored, and he could see as clearly as ever before. He looked into the face of his beloved Rapunzel, and his heart was filled with pure joy. The prince led Rapunzel back to his kingdom, where they were welcomed with a great celebration. They were married and lived happily ever after, their lives filled with love, laughter, and beautiful music. And so, our story shows us that even when things seem dark and hopeless, kindness and love can find a way to shine through. Hope is a powerful thing that should never be lost.